Hi. So I keep getting these messages. This is supposed to be my week off. I'm actually starting to strip all these shelves down, and right next to me it looks like an utter tip. It's because I'm stripping all the shelves down. But keep getting these messages on Facebook, and it's mostly to do with the last 2 WhatsApps that I put out. It's like, okay Vic, you've ranted and ranted and ranted. What would you do? You haven't told us what you would do. Okay, so here I am telling you what I would do. If I had the chance to sit down with the government of the day, whether it's the current government or whether it's sometime at the end of this year and it's a new Labour Party that's in place, and they turned round to me and asked me, Vic, you're basically nobody in the grand scheme of things, but what would you do? What would you do about vaping? We need your help, Vic. Okay, by this point in time, disposables will have already been banned, right? And even if they weren't banned by this point in time, I would still say, fuck it, go ahead with the ban. Go ahead. It would take too much fucking time and too much effort to basically reverse the problem, and it's become blatantly fucking obvious that the vaping industry itself can't fucking regulate itself. So you need to basically ban the disposables. Because if there's not a blanket ban on them, it will make trading standards' job all that much harder picking out the legitimate disposables from the illegal disposables that I talked about in the previous video, because the illegal disposables are flooding the UK market, usually via Manchester. Shut down the disposable problem completely by fucking banning them. Okay, that's number 1. We already know there's going to be a disposable ban anyway. Number 2, I would implement a 2-tier license system. 2-tier license system, right? Tier number 1, which is the top tier, would be for vape shops, like actual vape shops, not corner shops that have a vape stand in the corner. An actual shop where 90% of the contents of that shop that's being sold is to do or for vaping, right? That way corner shops can't go, oh, I'm a vape shop, look, I sell a podcast. No, you're not a fucking vape shop, you're a corner shop. Shut the fuck up and get to the back of the queue. So that's what I would do. 2-tier system. So at the top of that tier, you've got the main license, which is for bona fide vape shops where 90% of the contents of that shop that's being retailed is for vaping. And bundled in with that is chemists. Because think about it. Most chemists, not most, all chemists these days usually deal in nicotine replacement therapy. Patches, gums, that kind of thing. So it only makes sense to have chemists lumped in tier 1, right? Tier 1. Tier 2 gets a little bit interesting. Now, for a long time, I was of the belief that vaping gear should only be sold in vape shops and chemists, right? And I'm still kind of that. I'm still kind of that mind. But then I thought, well, hold on a fucking minute here. A lot of these folks that wandered in to get these disposables wandered into their local supermarket, wandered into their corner shop, wandered into a petrol station. They don't want to walk into a vape shop. They don't want to walk into their chemist. But they especially don't want to walk into their vape shop. Now, I think some of you know where I'm going with this. Some vape shops, I'm not saying all before people get pissy in the fucking comments. I'm saying some vape shops, a minority of them. The people behind the counter, number 1, act as if they're a car salesman, and number 2, generally don't know what the fuck they're talking about. It's a fact. Before people get pissy down there in the comments, vape shops these days are a completely different beast to the way that vape shops used to be back half a decade ago. A lot of vape shops, especially newer ones, are springing up around the country where they're advertising for jobs and they're looking for people not with vaping experience, but with retail experience. There are a number of shops, small independent shops, up and down the country, including one of the vape shops in this very town, where the people behind the counter have never vaped. Never vaped. They've never smoked either, but they've never vaped. They're just there as a retail assistant. They don't know about what they're selling. They don't know about the industry. They're just there as a retail assistant. That's the kind of thing that vape should... Not all, again, before people get fucking... Not all. It's a minority, but it's a growing minority of vape shops. Have retail assistants, not vape experts. And some people who have walked into these shops who have came across the hard car salesman type of, oh, you don't want this little thing for £10. You want this. This is £55 and it blows Chuck's clouds, bro, for days. And no, they didn't want that. They wanted something simple. So they were instantly put off by walking into a vape shop. Hence, they walked into a corner shop. They walked into a chemist. They walked into a supermarket. They walked into a petrol station and got their little disposable there. This is where tier 2 comes in. But there's going to be a difference with this tier. So tier 2 would be open to any retail establishment that's not a bona fide vape shop or a chemist. Tier 2 would be limited to only tobacco and menthol. See where I'm going with this? It would be limited to tobacco and menthol flavours only. Only. Period. Full stop. No fucking exceptions. So the only shops where you could buy vapes in the UK would be a chemist's or an actual vape shop. So if pod kits, which they usually do, like the blue and the vape and all that stuff, they're going to rush in eventually and replace all these disposables that are basically being taken off the shelf. They're rewinding the clock back to what it was like 4 years ago at your local corner shop, because they were selling blues, they were selling vapes, your bona fide pod kit. But now they would be limited to tobacco and menthol only. No fruits. No desserts, no drinky flavours, just tobacco and menthol only. And if the end user wants something with fruit, something that's desserty, something that's drinky, something that's not tobacco or menthol, they go into their local chemist or they go into their local vape shop, where they are bound to be carded and asked for ID. This way it keeps the door open for the corner shops, the petrol stations and the supermarkets to have a small selection of pod kits available for people who are vaping things like this, who have suddenly forgot to put fresh batteries in their mod, or they forgot to bring their juice with them and they're basically struggling, so they can run into any local corner shop, any local corner shop, any local supermarket and pick up that blue or vape with menthol or tobacco in it at 20 milligram nicotine salt. That way it keeps the door open for the corner shops, the supermarkets and the petrol stations to keep selling simple tobacco and menthol kits. But if you want flavours, chemists, vape shops, and that's it. It'd be a 2-tier licence system that I would implement. It'd be a 2-tier system. Top tier for vape shops, bona fide vape shops and chemists only, and the second tier for basically all other retail. And the second tier would be limited to tobacco and menthols only. That way you would essentially be practically shutting down the problem of underage sales, because underage kids are not really going to go for the yucky artificial tobacco flavours that you get in pods, and they're not really going to go for the fucking lung freezing choking menthol that you get in a lot of these pods either. They're going to go for the fruits. And if they try and walk into a chemist or a vape shop, if it's a legitimate vape shop or chemist, which 99% of them are, they're going to be refused at the door. So there you go. That's that part done. Next, I would scrap the notification system, or the notification or public consultation that is in place for 2025. That doesn't need to happen anymore because flavours are now being restricted to bona fide vape shops and chemists only. And because they're being restricted to those two types of shops, it means that Trading Standards is going to have a much easier time policing the vaping system in the UK. But on top of all that, I would implement a fourth policy, the strike system. If Trading Standards walks into a corner shop and finds that corner shop selling fruity vapes, which they're not supposed to do because they're only supposed to sell tobacco and menthol, it'd be a £5,000 fine on the spot. If they can't pay the £5,000 fine on the spot, their shop gets shut down until they can. And that goes for any retailer, whether it be a vape shop in Tier 1 who's selling underhand or under the desk illegal disposables, or whether it's a corner shop selling fruity flavours that they shouldn't be selling. They should know the fucking law when they start selling vape equipment. Second strike, £10,000 fine. If they can't pay it then and there, their shop gets shut down until they do. Third strike, £30,000 fine, and the manager or owner of that shop goes to court. If you want to stamp out the idiots, you've got to stamp on them very fucking hard until they get the point. Because right now, Trading Standards and the fines that Trading Standards can give out is basically, you're bad, and that's it. You're talking like a £200 fine, £250 fine, if they actually get a fine. Because 9 times out of 10, they're just given a warning and Trading Standards walks out the door. And then a week later, the same shop is selling the same shit that they were caught for the previous fucking week. £5,000 fine first strike, £10,000 fine second strike, £30,000 or £20,000 fine third strike, and the owner and manager of that shop gets hauled into court for breaking the law 3 times. Simple as that. Too many fucking chancers. There's way too many fucking chancers that are running corner shops and market stalls and all that think they can scut around the law. And that's part of the fucking problem right now. It's part of the fucking problem. So, a 2-tier license system. Flavours, like all the flavours that you like, would only be available in bona fide vape shops and chemists. Tobacco and menthol in pods would only be available in supermarkets, gas stations, petrol stations, and corner shops. Massive fines for any shops that are breaking the law. Massive fines for any shops that are breaking the law. And the current legislation that's on the table for 2025 would be pulled from the table, but the disposable ban would still go ahead. If that was implemented, I think that would sort 90% of the problems that the vaping industry is currently facing. The disposables would be removed from the table. Vape shops and chemists would be licensed to sell bigger stuff like this. Corner shops, corner shops, supermarkets and petrol stations would have a second tier license to sell the much simpler stuff like your blues, your vapes, your pod kits, but they would only be able to sell tobacco and menthol, and that's it. That's it. If the end user, if the consumer wants flavours, they need to go to a vape shop or a chemist. Probably the vape shop, because I can't really see chemists stocking up on e-liquids. I really can't. I mean, they're already stuck for shelf space in a lot of these chemist shops. They'll need to go to a vape shop essentially. But I think that would basically end up sorting out the majority of the problems that we are seeing right now, because the door would essentially be mostly shut on the kids who are buying all the different flavours from their local corner shop, because they're going to be stuck with tobacco and menthol only. And if they try and go for the extra flavours, they can't, because 99% of the time they're going to be carded and asked for ID at the chemists and at the local vape shop. That would instantly shut down the arguments about, oh, think of the children. It would instantly shut down the arguments for that. And it also means that the vape flavour restrictions that they're thinking of doing doesn't need to happen anymore, because now flavours and vape e-liquids are restricted to be sold in chemists and vape shops only, which makes Trading Standards life a lot more easier. Simple things like that. Simple things like that would do. For the license system, what I would end up doing is for tier 1 license, in other words vape shops and chemists, it would be £500 per year. For tier 2, it would be, call it £300 per year. Practically every single vape shop out there could afford a license for £500 per year. Chemists can afford that, no problem. You don't want to price the licensing that high that you'll end up seeing a load of fucking vape shops up and down the country shut down because they can't pay 10 grand for the license for the year. You want to price the license low, so there's going to be an extra bit of money coming into HMRC and tax revenue, but not high that you end up putting off a lot of the vape shops from keeping their doors open. That's what I would do. And those ideas that I basically just said, they wouldn't be hard to implement. They could implement a license system within 3 to 4 months. Easily 3 to 4 months. It would be the local council authority that takes care of the licensing. So all the vape shop owner would need to do is go to the local council office, show them their business address and say, I'm a vape shop, I want a license. There you go, give me £500, thank you, there's your license, bye. Simple as that. The license system could be implemented within months, 3 to 4 months easily. And when the license system is in place, it means there's more revenue coming in to HMRC, who can then bump that revenue in to trading standards to help them police the new landscape of vape retailing here in the UK. Easily implementable. And I'm fucking surprised the Tories haven't done it yet. Fucking very surprised they haven't done it yet. When you think about it, thousands of vape shops up and down the country, £500 for each of those vape shops, that's millions in revenue every year. Millions in revenue. Surprised the Tories haven't done it. Because tobacco sellers have to be licensed. I'm surprised vape sellers don't. Very surprised. Anyway, I hope this video answers some of your questions. Anyway, that's it from me. Have a good one.